Welcome on. We are broadcasting live. We are down at Stenny's in Walker's Point in Milwaukee. For those of you listening throughout the rest of the state of Wisconsin, it is our first huddle in now a year and a half, and we are glad to be back out in the bow. We're glad to be with all of you. We're glad to be down here. Myself, Kevin Holden from CBS 58, who sits here and joins me. And it is a little bit like a reunion, man, and people watching all over the net. I'm sure Drew Burgoyne right now is checking to make sure that you're not eating wings or anything bad for you, considering the diet. But welcome back, man. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here, Bill. Great to see you. And speaking of the workouts and the diet and sort of thing, I people talked about the progress I've made. You made some progress.
Yeah, I've lost a small person, so I feel pretty good about that.
That's awesome.
I can see all the body parts again, everything that's necessary. I'm good. Not that I want to gross anybody out while they're eating dinner tonight down here at Stenny's, but yeah, it's been a weird year and a half.
Yeah,
COVID hit us. We were quarantined, and then obviously we got back out and about again. But sports has been weird. We saw a football season go by without fans, and then a Super Bowl that somewhat had fans, and now it seems like we're all back at it, living life normally, depending on who you are and what you believe. But the Green Bay Packers start out the season weird again, as a Hurricane Ida hits New Orleans. The Saints then have to vacate, and they head off to Dallas, Fort Worth, and they're then practicing down there in Arlington at Jerry's house. And in the meantime, the Packers get ready for a game against the Saints, which is going to take place in Jacksonville at 92 degrees and 70% humidity. We can't get much stranger than this.
The funny thing is, can you think of any time ever in your career, in your life, where something as weird as a season opening game that's been shifted to a neutral house is something we don't even blink at compared to the weirdness of the year or two before? Like, that's the strange thing about it. We all just sort of said, oh, okay, well, this is going on here. But the important thing, as you say, is no matter where, they're going to play a game. They're going to do this in front of fans, actual fans, not a small percentage of fans. And to me, it means everything, because there was a season in 2020, but to do it in front of no one was just, it was surreal. It was like I was watching a practice with another team.
Right. Yeah. It's and by the way, I'm completely fascinated at this point. What hat are you wearing? So for those that are watching at home, you see the hat. It's a guitar.
Yes.
A flying guitar. Now, that's not the Nashville Sounds, is it?
It is the Nashville Sounds.
I kind of thought that it might be, but I think they had an old logo, didn't they? Or has it always been that?
I got this. Well, when did the Packers play there? 2016.
Yeah.
So this is probably an old logo by now.
Okay. I was going to say, I thought maybe they had a different logo by now, but okay. I was fascinated with it, and I had to ask. You always walk in wearing something, and I got to go, okay, I got to guess where it's from. It's almost like around the world.
It matches the shirt.
The mouse rat. Okay.
Yeah, that's Chris Pratt's band in Parks and Recreation.
Okay. Well, at least they're not wearing anything that says I'm offended, starting out right away like that, So, speaking of that path, it was also a very, very strange offseason. We saw Aaron Rodgers really not say much, but a lot of people did a lot of talking on his behalf. So let's start there. Let's go back and the offseason, and then that long dissertation that he gave at the podium at the opening of training camp, and really wanted to dispel a lot of myths. And then talk about communication, which recently he said on the Pat McAfee show has been really, really good. So I don't know necessarily what to believe, but the whole Last Dance thing seems to become really prevalent right now, doesn't it?
It does. And I think as little as I wanted to believe it that day, because you look, before this happened, for anybody that wasn't listening, before all this happened, you were talking about this. Paul Allen had you guys were talking about this. And this was, when that happened, I was like, okay, first of all, I know you guys are talking about it, and we're not talking random blogger in the blogosphere.
Right.
The fact you guys are talking about it meant there's fire to the smoke, but I was just praying that there wasn't.
I think everybody was. And I'll be honest, the way, and I've explained this before, but the way this broke down was, for people that say, wow, it was fake news. It really was. And what happened was, Paul Charchian, who we both know, Paul and Paul Allen do a show on KFan up in Minneapolis, and Paul had called and said, hey, you want to listen to this? And then I heard it from Paul Allen. So what I did was I made phone calls. I didn't want to. It was a day that I was off. I was actually, sadly, I was putting my dog down that day, and I just wanted to kind of do that, and spend my day doing that. But I thought, this is so big, you got to call. So I made a couple of calls to a couple of friends in San Francisco who verified, yes, this happened. So we talked about the possibility of a trade and Aaron Rodgers saying yes. Well, the story went from being the Packers turned down a trade to Aaron Rodgers okayed the deal. Wait a minute, why did Aaron okay the deal? And that's when the Adam Schefter kicked in. And we know where Adam Schefter got his information because his agent is Aaron's agent, and they're all in that same agency. So when all of that happened, we understood what happened, where it morphed and where it changed. What then became so out there was the speculation. Because you heard everything from, I said, I'm 70% sure he's probably not coming back, but I think my heart wanted 30% to say, yeah, I think he will.
Right.
Others nationally and locally said 95% he's gone. He's not coming back. Even Aaron said, look, up until 2 days before camp, I wasn't coming back. So you question, what did he work on in the offseason? Did he stay healthy in the offseason? Is he mentally ready to go in the offseason? All that kind of stuff that he had put in the year before. Did it happen this offseason? Well, you've been to camp. Everybody's been to camp. You've seen him. The guy looks as sharp as ever.
Yeah. And he looks, the funny thing is, this is the oldest he's ever been. I know that's a kind of a weird way to say it. We're also the oldest we've ever been. But in his case, this is not Rodgers of even 2 or 3 years ago when you talk about bodily health in the NFL. So something else has to compensate for it. So if he took a whole off season and spent that entire off season, he was talking about things like Ayurvedic cleanses. Like the thing about following Aaron Rodgers is I learn things about other things because of him.
Yeah.
Like I go research, what is an Ayurvedic cleanse? I've never heard of this. Mm-hmm. So I go and look it up, and it's like, there's a lot in here. We're talking about internal stuff and emotions and releases and stuff like that. And first of all, that tells you, yeah, there is some sort of emotional thing that he was trying to let go of. But the other thing is, if he cleaned himself out on the inside, that can help him physically. And just taking an off season off helps him physically.
Yeah. Then you talk about the physical side, the mental side. He took time off. He was in Hawaii. He was traveling. He was spending time with what he dropped on us at the MVP speech was, oh, by the way, I got engaged. So he's hanging out with a fiance. The fiance's retweeting Stephen A. Smith. Everybody's talking for him, and his thing was stay silent, let everybody wonder. And then everybody said, well, is this true or not? And then we find out in that dissertation he gave, yeah, everything was true. Everything was out there. He was not happy with the organization, not happy with communication, not happy with the fact that they treated him like a piece of meat and a commodity. They were overlooking his ability. He came in with a ginormous chip on his shoulder, which usually in Aaron Rodgers' case bodes well.
That usually means if you go bet on the Super Bowl berth, this is the time. And by the way, the fact that Rodgers said what he said in all honesty in front of the media told you how serious this was, because if at the risk of getting stuff thrown at me here, if there's any one entity that loves to mess with any other entity in the history of this state, it's Aaron Rodgers and the local media.
Right.
He does not. Rodgers will always come up with some phrase like, RELAX was a thing and all this other stuff. But there's also you don't get straight answers out of Rodgers to anything beyond what's on the field ever.
So then he goes and gets Randall Cobb back.
Right.
My question is, we know that Devontae has a season coming up in which he's playing for a contract. We know that Randall was his request, so he's back. Equinemius St. Brown finds his way to a practice squad because he's a slot receiver and they don't have room for him because they drafted Amari Rodgers and they brought Randall back. So the question is, they only have one football. And he's talking about, well, I don't really force it to anybody. Well, now we know that's kind of not true because we've seen this happen before.
Right.
How many times does he look at Randall? How many times does he look at Devontae before he goes through MVS, Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones out of the backfield, Mercedes Lewis, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who he's praised for his maturity in the offseason. So this, first of all, it's a great problem to have. But secondly, you don't want to see, we're going to get this to Randall to make sure that my want for him coming back proves to be well at maybe the risk of the team.
That's a really good point that if Randall Cobb is getting 100 targets, I don't think it's a good thing because, as you say, it comes at the expense of so much else. I mean, they could run their offense at the pace of 2011. Remember when everything was a track meet and everything in 2011 was just pace, and they were running 1 million plays a game? They might have to do that just to spread this ball around the requisite number of times, because you have 3 different people on this team who by themselves on a roster can be an MVP of an offense. Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, and of course Aaron Rodgers. Robert Tonyan has proven he's a terrific tight end. You don't want to lessen any of those at the expense of Randall Cobb, who just went through 2 bad seasons in 2 completely different places. I think he's better than the Texans version. But no, it's not 2013. Like, I think if Randall Cobb is a mentor to Amari Rodgers, he's done his job this year.
We are broadcasting live at Stenny's. We are in downtown Milwaukee, really Walker's Point, Second and National. This is a great place if you're coming into town from any of our affiliates and you're going to go to a Brewers game, if you're going to even want to get tickets to a Packers game, you're going to go to an Admirals game, Bucks game, Marquette game, you name it. They take shuttles all over the place, and not to mention they have the absolute positive best wings anywhere. It's fantastic. And the Bill Michaels garlic cheese bread I can highly recommend. It's not on the menu, but you can ask for it, and they know it. Believe me, they know it. So stop on by. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, and everybody down here can get registered for a 55-inch big screen TV that we're giving away at the end of the season. Compliments of Chris Kalug and the gang over there at ABC Audio Video. And we can't say thanks enough to Chris. Chris is in Milwaukee, based in Milwaukee, been in Milwaukee, and he's been with me now, I think, going on like 13 years.
Really?
And I take that back, 11 years with Chris. And I can't say thanks enough to him for being a part of the program as well. So we talked about the receiving core. When we come back, I want to talk more about the guys that are going to be blocking for him, because no David Bakhtiari, 2 rookies on the interior of the line. Elkin Jenkins is moving all over the place and making all kinds of money eventually. And now you've got to wonder, is there going to be an issue when you got the guard and the center, both rookies, both aren't familiar with all of this? What's going to come up the gut? You hate to have anybody make a mistake at the loss of Aaron Rodgers or anything else for that matter. So we got all of that to get into. We are broadcasting live again down at Stenny's. Thanks to our buddy Ebo, who is back in Madison, and he's producing the show and pushing all the right buttons and making sure that we stay on the air, and hopefully it sounds good. And we'll be back. Stay a lot more coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you. We are broadcasting live at Cities. We're in Walker's Point, and that's where you can find us. Second in National. Talking Packers, talking the NFL as the NFL kicks off tonight. And Kevin Holden from CBS 58 alongside this evening. We'll also have a nice visit from Mike Clemens coming up here in a little bit. We'll chat with him. But the weird news is that the NFL kicks off tonight. You got the Buccaneers hosting the Cowboys. The kickoff concert, Ed Sheeran.
Oh, wow. That's kind of a...
Ed Sheeran is the kickoff concert tonight.
It's not as much testosterone as you would think.
No, it's not. Don't get me wrong. He looks like he's jamming, as we've got it on many of the television screens here. But, yeah, Ed Sheeran.
That's a surprise. That's a curveball.
I said earlier, it's kind of like you bring your fold-out chair and a bottle of wine and, your dog. That type of thing, and you've got everybody kind of gathering on the green, and everybody's drinking with their pinky out. I don't know. I didn't know Ed Sheeran rocked it all. So, he looks like he's moving a lot. I can't hear his music. Really good crowd down here tonight. So, and Summerfest is tonight. So they've got shuttles running over to Summerfest as well. Yeah. But yeah, kind of a weird scene, man. Yeah, Ed Sheeran in the house.
Adding to the weirdness of it's September.
Right.
Summerfest is going on, and the Packers are getting ready to play a game against an NFC opponent in an AFC stadium. So it's just stacking the bizarre.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a goofy thing. So I wanted to talk about the offensive line. You've got Royce Newman. You've got Josh Myers. Both guys brand new. You've got Elkin Jenkins moving out the left tackle. No David Bakhtiari. What do you expect? I got to think, because I was talking earlier today. I said I expect the offense to get off fast. I want to see them put up points like they did last year against Minnesota. And Aaron Rodgers has looked so good. He's got a plethora of weapons. But then you got to take a step back and think, I wonder what they do to kind of get guys into a rhythm early on. I wonder if it's not necessarily wasting your opening drive, but maybe just putting your opening drive out there conservatively just to see what the guys up front are going to do for Aaron Rodgers.
Makes a lot of sense. And one of the biggest reasons why is I don't know if there was a team in the NFL that showed less in the preseason than the Packers did.
Right.
They didn't have anybody out there. They were missing 30 guys a game on purpose, and it helped them stay healthy, which was one good thing. Especially those positions where they're stacked and deep. But offensive line is a question because they are neither stacked nor deep along that offensive front. Like you mentioned, two rookies are up there. Elton Jenkins switches positions again, which thank goodness for the versatility of that guy. Who knew when they signed Jenkins that he would turn out to be a superstar across what hopefully is now three different positions on the line? That's going to be really big to me. I think Myers is a guy to watch. I think that's going to be a big plus. I think they really, really, really were hoping that Hansen would have been better, but Hansen couldn't get the ball off during one of the preseason, the Bills game, and that kind of sealed his fate. I think it's not that they were putting a lot of faith there, but I think that they would have felt better had they had one extra option there.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see, but it makes a lot of sense. Game one could be slow just because those guys didn't play in the preseason.
You've got Josh Nijman. You've also got John Runyon, Jake Hansen, those three guys backing up. Eventually, you've got also Dennis Kelly, another guy. How do you feel about the overall depth of the offensive line?
I don't feel good about it at all.
I like Runyon. Runyon came in last year and did yeoman's work early on in the season. It looked pretty good, like he could hold his own, and you hope that he takes that step in the second season. But I don't. At first, I felt really good about it, and then I'm not quite so sure.
I'll tell you this: when the time comes and Bakhtiari is back, if Bakhtiari is anywhere close to himself, and I think he could be, you do that, and now you talk about a line that has Jenkins and Bakhtiari and Billy Turner in some combination. Those are three really strong
Right.
options. Now I feel much better. It's amazing what that one player, that absence of the one guy does, because there's a domino effect. It just kicks everything down.
So we talked about the offensive line, the wide receiving core. Now you've got the running backs. And even though the running backs, I'll tie Josiah DeGuara into this only because he can be used as an H-back and a fullback and all that kind of stuff. But I really like what they've got back there. I mean, I wasn't sure at first, and the loss of Jamal Williams and a guy that came into the system with Aaron Jones, I thought, maybe there's a toll there. But it seems like it's just been accentuated. It seems like A.J. Dillon, who really had his coming out party last year against the Tennessee Titans, he's a great 2 and a 1-2 punch, because you've got almost the scat back, the quick, the water bug, the ability to catch and receive, the ability to pick up the blitzes. He's got that quicker step than everybody else. That's Aaron Jones. And then A.J. Dillon. I mean, if he ever gets his pads down and runs behind his pads, he gonna run some people over with the gravity that he has.
It's almost fullback-ish. It's
Right?
almost 90s-ish there. And I think that Jones and Dillon are a better complementary punch than Jones and Jamal Williams. Nothing wrong with Jamal Williams. I think Jamal will have a role in the Lions offense. But that combination of what Jones can provide, Jones is going to soak up some of what Jamal Williams did as a receiving back, that kind of thing.
Right.
And A.J. Dillon can be the power guy. And remember, and we talk about it every year in September because we forget it's 70 degrees and we forget. Soon it will be 10 degrees.
Right.
And I think that's when A.J. Dillon becomes really valuable.
How much did Kylan Hill impress you as the backup in the preseason?
So it's hard for me to read into it for two reasons. They didn't play anybody, so they kept giving Kylan Hill carries. Plus, in my day job, I have to get really excited when he scores touchdowns in these preseason games.
Right.
The rest of you're kind of like, but I have to ah! We get that goal call that goes for 20 seconds.
Right.
So I think I come out of preseason sometimes with overly hyped opinions of a running back, but I really liked what Kylan Hill did in the preseason. And it's hard to gauge because you're facing some 1s and some 2s and some 3s in there. But I thought he was consistent, and I think he could. He's not going to have a huge role, but he'll carve out something.
He ran, I thought, with a reckless abandon. He ran power, like he ran with a purpose. Dexter Williams, for me, as good as I thought he was coming out of Notre Dame, and I thought he was relatively average, but there was too much dancing, and I hate to say soft, but there was a softness to him. And he just wasn't going to be that guy that thought, I will not be denied. Sometimes if you're undrafted like Kylan Hill and you're coming in and you're looking at this situation, you're going, I got to run some people over if I'm going to have a job. He was hungry, and it showed. I mean, I thought that's, Mike Clemens, who's sitting over here too. Mike had brought it up and said, man, they really like this guy. He's running with a hunger. And sometimes the hunger will win out. And so I go back, I keep going back years ago to when Brian Noble and I did the postgame show. And Brian would always talk about players that looked really good and were athletic and they had a great 4.4 and a great cut and such. And he said, give me the guy that has the heart and wants to be a football player every damn day of the week. And it seems like Kylan Hill's that guy.
He is. I had two guys that jumped for me from the preseason. One is Kylan Hill, and the other is Malik Taylor, and for the exact same reason.
Right.
They understood that 80% of the world may not be putting energy into the preseason, but this is your chance. You have to put 10,000% energy into it to make most of your chance. And I thought both Kylan Hill and Malik Taylor did a fantastic job of taking advantage of that moment. Who knows what it leads to when you're facing real opponents, but they at least put themselves in the position. They can get there.
Then the tight end core, we've got, obviously Josiah DeGuara, who can, again, be a tight end. By the way, the guy just catches everything. Right? Now, we've seen him in training camp get his work in, but I still go back to when you look at guys' highlight reels, you always look at something that's perfect. He was never perfect. He was a guy that, man, they threw it high and wide, and he was going to take a shot to the ribs, but he got his fingertips on it and tipped it into the air, and he brought it in. Then he gets a touchdown pass where it's 10 yards too far. He runs under it, tips the ball into the air, grabs it, and runs it for a touchdown. It just, if it gets within the sound of his hands, he's going to grab it before it's all said and done.
You know what he reminds me of is a lot of these, you have these very athletic tight ends now. The position has been redefined a little bit. if you were to put the bodies out of uniform of guys like Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, they're at the top, but even like Robert Tonyan, they don't look like the tight ends we remember from when we were younger.
Right.
That position's been redefined, and I think that DeGuara is a guy who is athletic enough to be a modern type of tight end. He's not going to supplant Robert Tonyan, but he'll catch some balls. I think he'll have value.
So last year, the Green Bay Packers, 13-3, 31.8 points per game, number one in the NFL. They were, as far as total offense goes, 389 yards on average per game, fifth in the NFL. Do they match that this year?
Yeah.
With more weapons and a stout offensive line, especially when Bakhtiari comes back, do you think they match the numbers?
I do.
Are they better?
They could be. I mean, it's that. I think if you're better, it's about who's beyond those number one options. In other words, if A.J. Dillon has a step forward, if MVS has a step forward, those are the guys that'll make a difference. Alan Lazard, like these are guys that when they're at that level where they are not contributors, but then they become contributors, they give you 50 catches or whatever. That's the sort of thing that pushes them up. But honestly, this whole thing was set up by Aaron Jones returning and then other players taking these pay cuts and restructuring their contracts.
Right.
And the pyramid was almost built without a top. In other words, all of that was set to run it back. And if Aaron Rodgers had not been there to run it back, I think it would have had a colossal effect on the franchise. And not just from the quarterback play, but the fact that he's there means they could run it back.
What did you think of Jordan Love's preseason, if anything?
I think it was necessary. That's
right.
The most important, right? You have to get these reps. And that's the interesting thing about Rodgers taking time away. If he was upset, was all he did was accelerate the development of his successor, right? I mean,
right.
That's that. I don't know if that's necessarily what he wanted to do. Jordan Love is a guy that if the Packers would have had to depend on him this fall, there would have been some real growing pains. It would have felt like 2008, probably with a better overall offense. But in a couple of years, he could be a guy. I just didn't think it was going to be now.
I think if I was like grading papers and Jordan Love came up to me, I would probably put an INC, and it was an incomplete.
Yeah.
With the injury, missing a week of practice, missing a game. I liked his first game in some sense. He looked like he went through his first couple of reads. There was one time he tried to force a ball in. The pass to Sternberger I thought was on the money. He threaded it between two defenders, something we had not seen in his highlight reel where he actually throws a guy open, so to speak. And you kept hearing when we would talk to Mike or we would talk to Rob Reichel or we would talk to any reporter, they would say he's got athleticism. He can run. He's got a big arm. It's jumping out of his hand. And my whole argument always has been, I don't care what he does in his underwear. Give me guys that are scheming for him. Give me a team that's coming after him. And when they did, he looked okay. But it's an incomplete. There was nothing there that made me say, wow, that's the reason they drafted Jordan Love.
Right. He didn't jump off of that page of scripts. I think that's where the difference is. I mean, I think you could have said about Aaron Rodgers the same thing pre-2009, maybe. Like there were things that were big about Aaron Rodgers. And in 2008, he came in with all kinds of promise. But there's the Rodgers that we know, the one that gets the free plays, the one that can thread the needle with those back shoulder throws and all that stuff. Though that guy wasn't necessarily evident for the first couple of years, and I that's why I'm with you. I don't know if I can tell you what 2023 Jordan Love looks like right now. I don't know.
Let's do this. We're going to step away and take a quick break. We're broadcasting live. We're in Walker's Point, downtown Milwaukee. Summerfest going on. You got a lot of people here tonight taking the shuttles over to Summerfest, and a lot of people here just to hang out for the show and eat some damn good food. So stick around for that. Kevin Holden from CBS 58 alongside. We'll be joined by Mike Clemens coming up here a little bit later on. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up, brought to you by Bud Light right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
There you go, Mike. I can't get over it.
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I can go to chat where people can chat with us. And the chat will come up here. Get rid of that. These are the people that are trying in.
It's a pro setup, man. It might be your best
Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you. Bill Michaels Show. We continue on the huddle tonight. We are live. We are at Stenny's in Walker's Point. Had a few people way in the back. They said, we can't hear you. So we turned it up a little bit. We don't want to blow everybody up front out, but talking Packers, getting ready for tonight's kickoff to the NFL. The NFL kicks off in about 20 after 7, I think, Central Time tonight is when it gets underway. You've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys and the newly reinvented and rebuilt Frankenfoot of Dak Prescott after last year's gruesome injury. And that being said,
I'm a highly successful.
I have no idea. I just, it's
Positive.
It's all positive, and we're going to look at the film and just watch him get his foot rebuilt. So we got Mike McCarthy going up tonight against Bruce Arians and company, and Tom Brady, obviously still giddy over the championship, trying to do it again as they bring back all 22. You don't hear of that very often with Super Bowl teams bringing back all 22. Kevin Holden from CBS 58 is with us as well. Tom, by the way, on the Bud Light live stream says, nice to see a lot of people out and enjoying life. A lot of these people are heading down to Summerfest, which is going on just down the street from us. They're running shuttles out here tonight. So good to see a lot of people down here as well. We were talking mainly about the offense and then about the tight ends, Josiah Aguara and company. The other question is Devontae Adams wants guaranteed money. Him and TJ Watt. TJ Watt's holding out. Devontae Adams, he's not holding out. He's ready for the season. And he says he had his best camp ever, but wants all guaranteed money. At least that's the report. What is Devontae Adams worth?
Oh, man. I mean, he's a receiver, so a lot of the salary structure of the NFL that has to do with these high burnout, quick life positions like running back, that sort of thing, I don't think it applies as much to someone like Devontae. Anybody is one major injury away from a problem, but at the receiver position, I don't see that happening to him along the way. Man, I mean, it's got to be 9 figures, right? It has to be 9 figures.
What is it if he's going to get guaranteed money? What is it per year that he's going to end up getting? Because the original number being thrown around was like $27 million a year. Right. Now I think it's Amari Cooper, the highest paid wide receiver right now, if I'm not mistaken, at 22.
Yeah,
I'd have to check.
What I was going to say.
22 is, I think, what they're making. But what is he going to be worth right now? And let's just say, for blanks and giggles, that he has a tremendous season. Then what is he worth?
More.
I mean, then because at that point in time, you figure guaranteed money, which the Packers and the Steelers, by the way, are not teams that do this traditionally. Then what does he become worth?
It does jump. And honestly, if you're the Packers, you set this up. You set this whole season up for someone like Devontae to have a monster year. Rodgers is back. There's a good running game that's diversified. The defense with its secondary is strong enough to limit opposition. That, I think, is a boost to your numbers on offense. Like, it's set up for Devontae to have that monster season. And if you're the Packers now, you have to sort of bet either for or against that. I would get in front of it. I would bet on the monster year and sign that money now. And 5 years at 110 would be $22 million a year.
Right.
It's about, that seems about.
And he wants it all guaranteed.
Yeah, that's tough.
Or at least the majority of it guaranteed.
Maybe there comes a day where that happens in the league. I think that's maybe past where we are.
The only time we've heard of that is Kirk Cousins.
Right.
He got that, what was it, $90 million, all of that guaranteed. And then he did it again a couple of years later and got more of it guaranteed.
And it's you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if you asked a Vikings fan today if they could rewind the time machine. I don't know. It's certainly not automatic that they push that button again.
They believe that healthy and with a good offensive line, Kirk Cousins is going to be what they expected him to be. Now, the problem for him last year is his offensive line was rather porous. He had guys dinged up at times. Their defense was not that good, but this year they've concentrated on rebuilding the defense, and the offensive line is a little bit better. It's still somewhat of a concern, but he's got really, really, really good weapons. Adam Thielen and company, and Justin Jefferson, and obviously Dalvin Cook in the backfield. But they lose Kyle Rudolph as a go-to guy, but they didn't use him a ton. Zimmer didn't use him a ton when it came to play calling. So, you kind of question how good he's actually going to be. Would you go back and guarantee him that amount of money?
Boy, it's just.
And then would you do that, guarantee that money for non-quarterback?
Right. Because the argument is a team will almost, like, Trent Dilfer is one of like 3 exceptions in the history of man. Usually the team goes as the quarterback goes, right? Usually if it's the Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes. If it's the Buccaneers or the Patriots, it's Tom Brady, right? So if you're betting against that, if you're putting that much money into a receiver, here's where the problem comes in. It's not even 100% about what Adams can give you. It's that if you sink that much money there, then there's going to come a point, and it may not be this year, it may be 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, where that money can't go to help some need that pops up, linebacker, defensive line, secondary, that kind of thing. And that's part of where guaranteed contracts haven't made it into the league, because that turnover is so quick. It's not a statement against Davante Adams. It's a statement more of the nature of the league and the nature of contracts to not pay him 100% guaranteed.
So when you look at the contracts, Amari Cooper making $22 million a year, Tyler Lockett, when it comes to total cash, making $21, and Cooper's base salary is $20, so he's obviously making the most. But when you talk about base salary, Davante Adams not even in the top 5. When it comes to the cap hit this year, he is number 3 with $16.787 million. But he still is not in the top 5 of cash. He's not in the top 5 of base salary. So, again, I go back to how much can you afford to pay the guy and pay David Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark, and obviously because your next highest paid player going into next season is going to be Zadarius Smith, believe it or not. And then on top of that, what are you going to do with Aaron Rodgers, Jair Alexander, who's coming up? I mean, you got a lot of decisions to make, and I don't know if you're going to be able to afford to keep him. Let's just say if Rodgers is here, unless Rodgers says it's about legacy, it's not about money, like he said, then and he takes a massive pay cut, there's no way you can keep both of them on his team, because you're already starting out $28 million in the hole for next year.
It is both the great benefit and the worst dilemma that's come with the year upon year success of the Packers over the last decade. They've produced so many really good players at so many different positions that now you got to pay them all.
Right.
And you don't have unlimited funds. That's the thing where a lot of fans got thrown off track. You literally don't have that. I mean, it took some pretzeling to get this to happen this year. I mean, it took somebody's out there with like an abacus, moving stuff around, trying to make it work. That only gets worse the more guaranteed money goes out.
Here's the question. This was brought up to me today, and I thought it was rather interesting when you start to look at the cap hit situation. Elkin Jenkins can bounce outside. Now, we don't know what he's going to be, but we've seen him play numerous positions. You picked up John Runyon. You got Royce Newman, who's filled in very admirably. Should they, if Elkin Jenkins becomes really, really good for the first 6 games, should they have paid David Bakhtiari?
Oh, man. What a hard, and it's so that this becomes a thing about Bakhtiari without Bakhtiari playing it down a football, right? Like it's, and there is the nature of the salary cap and what it does. And unfortunately, I think the answer to your question is probably no. You know what I mean? Like, if Elton Jenkins turns out to be fantastic, then it's not redundant, but it's going to look a little skewed in the cap to have paid Bakhtiari when you have that talent along the offensive line. It's not an indictment of him. It's not an indictment of Bakhtiari or his ability. It's just this many eggs in the basket. You got to spread them around.
When we come back, Dennis, who is on the Bud Light live stream, by the way, going to Greg. Yes, it's live. If you're watching it, it's live right now. So we are broadcasting live down at Steny, 2nd and National, Walker's Point, downtown Milwaukee. We are brought to you by Bud Light. Also, for those of you in the house, if you want to come up, we've got the Bud Light display over here. You can sign up to win a 55-inch television. Compliments of our friends at ABC Audio Video. We're going to give that away at the end of the year, and that'll be in your house in time to watch the big game. And hopefully the Packers are participating in it at SoFi Stadium out in L.A. But nevertheless, if you want to come over and get signed up, by all means, go ahead and do so. We're going to take a quick break. We got more of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in
What's that?
3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We are broadcasting live. We're at Stenny's, downtown Milwaukee, 2nd and National and Walker's Point. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Huddle, of the program, and been with us a long, long time. And thanks to Beechwood Distributing here in the city of Milwaukee, we have been with them for a long time, and they have stuck with us, and it's been great. So we're with them. 2-year contract.
Yeah.
With our friends at Beechwood. So they not only put the emphatic stamp on the program, but they said we're with you through thick and thin. And so, yeah, there we go.
They understand the investment.
They do. They know it. So that being said, I wanted to ask you about special teams. Kevin Holden from CBS 58 in the house here in this last segment of the first hour of the program. But special teams not looking that special. We've got a new holder and punter. Holder for Mason Crosby, punter for the Green Bay Packers. Last year, special teams wise, depending on what you looked at, they were 30th and 31st in the league. What do we expect, if anything?
I mean, Mason Crosby's been a veteran presence. He's kicked a ton of clutch field goals through the years. He's been good. And beyond Mason Crosby, it's a gigantic question mark. I mean, Again, going back to my day job, I'm a little upset that they waited to acquire the punter until after the preseason. We could have had a Hispanic name in our Spanish broadcast, but no, we had to wait till after the preseason. Do you know how much fun that would have been? Yeah, you'd like troll the R.
You're kind of like the only guy that got it right away because the rest of us butchered the hell out of the last name.
I saw that too. I was like, I need to roll on everybody's shows tonight.
What you should have done was got everybody's pronunciation, everybody's name, everybody's radio show, and then just started playing it back. And it's kind of like when Favre when Favre came into the league, and he got introduced wrong. It was Favre and Favre and Favre, and it was numerous before like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Exactly.
Giannis was the same way. Nobody knew how the hell to pronounce his last name, and then finally they got it.
I was going to say we should just call him Giannis,
right?
Because it's the same principle,
like
right?
Cher, man.
So the thing is, it's a little bit of an unknown in the punting game because I haven't seen much of him, not in Green Bay. And as far as the other things that are important in special teams, as you know, that's not a place where talent is necessarily king. Desire sometimes is king. Energy is king. And the problem is if you don't see that in the preseason or you don't see it in practice, I don't know if you're going to see it in the games. This could be a problem all year.
The special teams. The promise, I won't say the promise, but the eyebrow raise was when Matt LaFleur was asked, would he consider putting starters on special teams? And he said, whatever it does to make the team better. Now, I don't know how much I believe of that, but do you think he puts a starter or two or five or what have you on special teams if special teams continues to look less than special?
At the end of the day, and if there's any coach that understands health and reps, it's the guy that didn't play anybody in the preseason, right? I have a hard time believing that happens much in a regular season game when all of those reps, offense, defense, whatever, every one of those plays from scrimmage means so much. I don't know about adding to somebody's load. Maybe one starter, but this is not going to be. You're not going to see Jenkins and like Myers, the guys along the offensive front up there or anything.
But do you see Devondre Campbell? Do you see, or besides guys like Oren Burks and Ty Summers, do you see, say, Amari Rodgers? Does he get the nod? Some of these other guys. Do you see a guy like MVS?
Yeah,
playing there. I mean, when you don't have return games to begin with, I look at it this way: you're 30th and 31st. You have nowhere to go but up. So anything you do, if you go to 27th, we're craptastic happy. So hey, it got better. Nice job, boy. That special teams coach really got his ass in gear this year. You can't get worse, can you?
No, and you can get creative without taking a drop off because you're on the ground floor. That's right. It makes a lot of sense. So maybe they do. Maybe that's how they get creative. But the problem is in special teams is going to be one of those things where if the Packers start the year 3-0, no one will say a word. If they lose the fourth game and special teams has anything to do with it, it will be as if it was a problem the entire year.
I mentioned Amari Rodgers, and I know that he is going to be part of the punt return and possibly kick return. Kalen Hill, another one that's going to get the nod in that area. But you wonder if other guys, you're not going to run Zadarius Smith down there, but you wonder if Chris Barnes becomes a guy. You wonder if Darnell Savage Jr. suddenly, because he's got the speed and the ability and the tenacity to tackle, because last year tackling was terrible. You wonder if things become problematic if those guys, not your superstars, your top guys, you're not going to see Kenny Clark, Zadarius, and Preston Smith all running down there. But you wonder if you look at, say, I don't think Adrian Amos because he's so veteran, but you look at a guy like Darnell Savage, Kevin King. Does he then get the nod? Eric Stokes. Does he get the nod? These guys are the guys you wonder if they're going to get the nod to be able to be part of special teams or not.
Well, those two names are actually really interesting for completely opposite reasons. I worry that Stokes isn't going to get as many snaps as he would like to start his career on defense, so maybe that's where he gets some experience. And King, if he's in there too much, that's a bad thing too. Right. If he's in there too much on defense, then something's happened in the secondary, so maybe he gets snaps to keep him fresh. So for two different look, if it's a speed-based thing, if you're going to put all kinds of speed back there in special teams, that'd be kind of fun. I mean, who knows what the blocking part of it, but they could get creative.
Defensively speaking, now we haven't really gotten too deep into this, and we're going to do a little bit more coming up after the top of the hour. Mike Clemens is going to be here, but synopsis-wise, defensively speaking, I think they're stronger up the gut. I liked Kamal Martin. I think he took steps last year, but I think they're stronger up the gut. Devondre Campbell, Chris Barnes, I think they're good. I love the secondary and the depth in the secondary. Shannon Sullivan being your nickel guy, Amari Rodgers being a guy that's pressing Kevin King. Kevin King, when healthy, along with Jair Alexander, was one of the best duos back there. Darnell Savage, I thought, had a really good second half of the year last year and really kind of came on. Adrian Amos, he's pretty much stabilizing guy. It really comes down to, are they healthy up front, and can anybody, including Slayton, give any help to Kenny Clark in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Because it's a thin position along the defensive line. They're
Yes, it
talented, but they're not deep, and that's meaningful as guys get nicked up during the year. And heaven forbid if one of those guys goes down. I think I look at that depth chart on defense, that group of 11 in the backups, and the two names that just pop at me from either side are the Smiths. Because if the Smiths are what they're capable of being, that team's capable of top 10 defense, maybe better. Right. If the Smiths are who they are, but I don't know if they are who they are.
They got beat up in the run game last year. They were not great. That was one of their lowest ranked defenses. I mean, they were still top 15, but They were not where they wanted to be. Tackling was an issue, and the ability, I think, and maybe that's the reason Kamal Martin's not here, the ability for the linebackers to be in the right place at the right time, shed blocks, and be able to make tackles, it seemed difficult. Do you like because we haven't really seen anything out of Joe Barry to say he's going to mix it up. Do you like the hire of Joe Barry? Do you like the talk that Joe Barry has brought thus far and the fact that it's been so much predicated upon communication?
So far, and again, we're talking things that aren't games. It's so difficult, right? But I actually I'm a fan of the hire. And nothing against Mike Pettin, but Mike Pettin he's in a very specific corner of the world, and the Packers kind of decided at the end of the day that's not the corner of the world they wanted to be in. So Barry brings a different energy than Pettin does, and it's nothing again. I mean, Pettin has been good enough to be both a coordinator and a head coach in the league, but just what Joe Barry has brought in this small amount of time with the defense that he has impressed me. I think a good defensive coordinator does two things. You keep your superstars as superstars, and you find that next level of guys. You find those gems that pop up, and that's where I think he earns his money. Is like middle linebackers, who steps up there. If they're good, I think that goes back to your defensive coordinator.
1 hour down, 1 hour yet to go, and we are broadcasting down at Stenny's. We're at 2nd and National, Walker's Point, downtown Milwaukee. And if you want to come by and say hello, we still got another hour. Mike Clemens is going to join us coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned for that. Kevin Holden from CBS 58 is in the house as well. Also, you can stop by and in person get yourself registered to win the 55-inch big screen TV. Compliments of our friends from ABC Audio Video at the end of the season. It'll be in your house in time for the big game, without a doubt. So come on down and say hello. And by the way, award-winning Bloody Marys. As a matter of fact, they didn't even enter the Bloody Mary contest this year because bars were starting to complain because they've won it every year, like 9 years in a row.
Really?
That's how good they are. Best wings you're ever going to stick in your grill. We got a lot more. Got another hour yet to go. Mike Clemens is going to join us. Then we're going to have Kevin Holden step back in. Stay tuned. We got a lot more. Another hour. We're also going to get into our picks, the rest of the NFL, and tonight's game. You got Mike McCarthy heading down to Tampa Bay to take on Tom Brady, Bruce Arians and company, and the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's all upcoming. Got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by Bud Light right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the NFL will get underway tonight in Tampa as the defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers take on the Cowboys in the league opener. Packers going to have to wait a few more days to get their season going. They'll take on the Saints on Sunday in Jacksonville. Aaron Rodgers going to be making his 14th opening day start with the club as he begins his 17th year overall. Many think it could be his last, leading to more pressure on him and the rest of the roster to finally get over the hump and add that second Super Bowl ring to his collection. Rodgers, though, doesn't see pressure.
The feel that I get with the energy in the locker room is not pressure, it's focus. I think it's the right perspective and the right type of focus. We know we have a talented team. We know what the expectations are. We're just focusing on accountability and holding each other accountable, because regardless of what happens with any of our situations, this group will not be together the way it is now in years down the line.
Green Bay did elect 7 captains: Rodgers, Monte Adams, Mercedes Lewis, Kenny Clark, Adrian Amos, Jair Alexander, and Mason Crosby. Meanwhile, linebacker Preston Smith added the injury report, the laceration on his head. He is expected to play Sunday. Fellow linebackers Darius Smith limited to practice again. Turning to Wisconsin, they're going to host Eastern Michigan on Saturday night. Going to be their first meeting since 1996.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Brewers getting the day off. It comes after 16 straight days of games. Back in action tomorrow when they open a series in Cleveland. Milwaukee currently 12 games up on the Reds in the NL Central. Magic number to clinch the division is 10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold.
158!
This is The Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Hour number 2, and we're glad you're with us. The guy that is joining me up here at the table, Kevin Holden from CBS 58, stepped down for just a couple of minutes, and joining us up here now, our good buddy Mike Clemens. He's here as well. And first of all, Michael, welcome back, man. It's been a while since you and I have been out together on site, which is fantastic.
Well, and I love Stenny's, man, and some of the best chicken wings in the world. I mean, everybody knows that. But, yeah, always great people here. Great bar, one of the greatest bars in the Midwest. And so I just put away a half dozen like that, man. Gone.
Well, by the way, speaking of Mike hangs out at the Bay Motel up in Green Bay, which is one of our fine sponsors. How's the Bay Family Restaurant? I was talking about their chili today.
It's actually good. It's home good. You know who else stopped in?
Who?
Cooper Manning.
Really?
Cooper Manning, Eli and Peyton's brother.
Yeah.
He's doing a piece for Fox Sports. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to people say, Mike, Cooper Manning is here. What? In this quiet, quaint little motel, but the place is popular. I mean, like in the know, Packer fans know that this is a really great family place to go to. And you know why? He went there to talk to the customers.
Really?
They're in the restaurant. Yeah. Interview them about how they think the Packers are going to do this season, what they thought about happened last year. So Cooper Manning, one of the Manning brothers.
Just hanging out.
I mean, think about this. Archie Manning, great football player, all those years with the Saints, scrambling around for his life, never really had a good offensive line, makes it into the Hall of Fame. Peyton, Hall of Fame. Eli, winner of 2 Super Bowls. They're talking about Hall of Fame. And Cooper's still finding a way to get money out of the NFL.
Right? He's eating with you over at the Bay Motel.
Covering and broadcasting. I mean, the Manning family has just backed up the truck.
Right?
And from Pete Rozelle to Roger Goodell, they've just loaded up the cash.
I just picture Thanksgiving where there's Archie, and he's got the fork, he's got the knife, he's got the turkey in front of him, he's going to carve it up. Peyton is over there with his 2 rings on.
Yeah.
And he's playing with his little people from Peytonville.
Yeah.
And he's got Brad Paisley next to him.
Sure.
Who came for dinner because they're going to cook some really good homemade food.
Uh-huh.
And there's Eli, and
his 2 rings.
He's got the HOF question mark hat on with 2 rings. He's sitting over there, he's enjoying himself. He's like, this looks good.
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah. And then there's Cooper at the end of the table on that card table that's been folded out.
With the kids.
He's got Jell-O, and he's got Swedish gummy fish.
Right.
And everything in his bowl.
Carrot sticks.
And then they lean over and they go, you want some potatoes, Cooper? And then they rub his hair. Like, there you go. There you go. So,
good boy.
That's Cooper Manning sitting at the end of the table. Your perception of camp. The camp is obviously expired now. We're now into what's considered the regular season practices, getting ready for a weird scenario in which they're going to play the New Orleans Saints now in Jacksonville because of Hurricane Ida. But what does this team look like?
Hey, we don't know. I mean, Sean Payton is like saying, all right, what do I got to work on? He's got to go back to last year. He's got to go back to the Buccaneers game because 30 of the best players, save 4 or 5 that were injured, never touched the field in 3 preseason games.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The only people that know what the Green Bay Packers this season are going to look like are me, some of the fans that came up to the open practices, the New York Jets, and that's about it, man. You had to come to Green Bay if you want to see what these guys are doing in camp so far. And then, of course, they did a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. I think, we're going to see Devontae and Aaron Rodgers at a new level. I think we're going to see MVS not just be the deep guy, but maybe going over the middle. For me, a guy who kind of had a quiet camp was Alan Lazard, but that's fine. Aaron Jones didn't do a whole lot because he had a hamstring halfway through, but they had 3 or 4 running backs that they want to look at as to who was going to be the guy, the third
behind
running back.
A.J. Dillon, yeah.
So they'll go to that Kylan Hill, 7th-round pick. Maybe he'll return kickoffs this weekend. And they got A.J. Dillon in there in some games just because he only had 1 game last year against the Titans. On defense, is this Devondre Campbell, 7-year NFL vet, spent most of his career with the Falcons. Is he going to be the difference at inside linebacker? And this afternoon, Joe Barry, defensive coordinator, said, you know what? He's kind of like Preston in that he's a long guy. He's got long arms, which means over-the-middle pass coverage. That will help. Because, as you know, they've gone over. Blake Martinez, hard-working, great player. Everybody can just cut. He was sort of average.
Yeah.
And now he's with the New York Giants and, getting highly paid. Christian Kirksey was a stopgap guy who looked apart last year, but he was always a half step up. And then
he lost his starting job at one point.
And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
Like he did for the last 3 or 4 years in Cleveland. So now this is the next thing that they've done. They've got Chris Barnes, the undrafted guy from last year, along with Devondre Campbell over the middle. And then Eric Stokes, he's going to be a football player. Your corner, probably on the left-hand side, out of Georgia, fast. But Kevin King is back at it, so they'll work Stokes in. And now, do they have enough guys in their secondary where they can really develop this star position? Will they move Darnell Savage up so he can float around like Charles Woodson used to do back in the day?
Right.
Play the slot, drop back, deflect passes over the middle, kind of roll the field, help pick up if it's a late toss to a running back. And who are they going to get that position to? We'll find out Sunday at 3:25.
So we were talking with Kevin just a little while ago. The special teams has been an issue. They were 30th and 31st respectively in different categories in punt and kick return. You can't go anywhere but up, I guess. You can drop down 1 notch, but you certainly hope not. They bring in a new punter, which in essence is a new holder. You're looking for a better return game, better coverage, better tackling. Have we seen anything that's going to make us think the special teams are going to be better?
Coverage-wise, you lost 2 of your best guys in that Randy Rambo Ramsey, a linebacker. They like those inside linebackers to be the guys that line up in the middle of the kickoff team or maybe on the outside, but they're the first ones down the lane. Good tackler. They call him Rambo, man.
Right.
And Will Redmond, safety, but also good special teams. Those two of your best 4 or 5 top tackling special teams players done for the year. And I think, Redmond might be actually done career-wise because he's older.
Right.
The good news is I think it was a brilliant move to get this Corey Bojorquez, the new punter. He had 3 or 4 years with Buffalo. I still haven't quite figured out why he didn't get renewed in Buffalo, or if he got beat out, or if it was money. He goes to the Rams, though, thinking maybe he could compete against Johnny Hecker, but Sean McVay stuck with the veteran, and the Packers trade for this guy. They give him a 6th-round pick, and today Mo Drayton, the new special teams coordinator, said, "So what do you like about the new punter?" He cut us up. Hang time. Right. This guy's got hang time. That's all I've been asking for.
That was the thing.
Get me hang time.
With Scott was J.K. Scott gave you booming 50-yarders, then the next one would be a short little...
But it looked like a pass.
Right, but a short little 30-yarder that would go out of bounds.
Yeah.
But you're right. He wasn't giving you...
He said, I don't care if it's 47 yards. If you can make it stay up there 4.7, that's good. And then you're giving me 4.7 seconds to get those guys 45 yards downfield to make the tackle. I need hang time. That's what they think this guy's... I'll tell you the other thing, too. It's just we've talked to him now a couple times. Is Corey Bojorquez, number 7. I like him. He's like talking to Mason, man.
Yeah.
He's smart, experienced, knows the game. JK, great young man, family man. Little flaky.
Yeah.
Little
yeah,
on the
he
flaky
was a
side.
little off the.
This guy, this is a guy who almost sounds like a special teams coach when
Yeah.
you talk to him. So I'm excited to see what he can do down in Florida.
And J.K. at times was down the middle.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. There were times
Well,
that
it drove. LaFleur actually said that after a game. Yeah, well, we punted down the middle.
right,
You know, and the guy got like a 25-yard return.
right,
You don't do that.
right. Yeah, if you can't kick sideline to sideline in the NFL, you're not going to have a job.
Here's the other thing. And this new number 7, Corey Bojorquez, lefty. So the ball comes a different way.
right.
And so then we asked Mo Drayton, the special teams coordinator, so what's that like for the returner from lefty? He says, I love it. Because you know what? You got to adjust for that. He says, you've got to flip the switch on the jugs machine so the rotation of the ball when you're practicing comes the other way. You got to get used to that.
Yeah,
It's one more thing to deal
Right.
with. That's sweet, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
it's
He's right-handed for Mason, but punts left-footed.
well. That's the other question: is how are him and Mason? Well, I mean, we'll find out. Obviously,
We'll find out.
But how
A
are him
week
and
to
Mason
work it
getting
out.
along?
Yeah, it's a week to work it out.
Were you surprised they traded for him that late in camp? It was like a week and a half. It was like 10 days.
I think it had to do with what they saw out of JK that he wasn't going to progress. I think that there was a competition going on. I think they'd been watching him since Buffalo, and I think that that's when the Rams made their decision. Okay, we'll stay with Johnny. We're not going to move on to someone. That's when he became available, and the Rams returned the phone call, and the trade went through.
Do you think the contract or lack thereof for Devontae Adams and the end of the season, the considerations for Aaron Rodgers will become at any point a distraction?
I think what they're trying to sell you is this. I think Devontae and his team tried very hard all spring, but as the Aaron Rodgers story happened, I think they looked at it sort of as a deteriorating situation. I also think that, and from what Aaron said yesterday, actually, kind of reading between the lines, is this. You know, I lost to the Buccaneers. Tom Brady leaves the Patriots. The first team he picks up with, he's going to the Super Bowl. He uses Lambeau Field as a doormat to the Super Bowl, all right?
Right.
And then wins the thing. What am I doing wrong? So he works on that self-help stuff, and then he starts looking at that team like, oh, you know, we probably just needed a couple more guys in Green Bay. I like the coaches. What do I need to do to get to that next step? And then the next thing that's in his mind is, you know, this roster's gone next year,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if I want to be around for 2022.
It's
And that's why he starts. And the first guy he met with, we found out this week, was LaFleur. He called those guys and said, you know what? I'm not sure if I want to come back. What? So LaFleur was the first one to get on the plane, go to L.A., hang out in Malibu, brought him the best scotch he could find and some wines. They sat down, and Aaron let it all out. You know, I don't like the way Goody doesn't talk to us. I don't like this. I don't like that. You know, laid out all these things. We need more veterans. You know, we need to get a guy like Randall Cobb in, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when those talks went on for 4 or 5 months. I think, though, that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and that Devontae came around and said, like, we're golfing, and it's like, it doesn't matter what happens to my contract or whether or not Aaron Rodgers wants to come back after this year, because this roster is really going to change next year.
Right.
And so we don't even want to think about that. We are going to try and see what happens in this season, and then maybe we'll start making our decisions.
Is there so much pressure, though, on a season to be perfect that alone can be way so heavy that it derails the season?
Yeah, but, you know,
Or is it that they just have too much talent to let it happen?
yeah, Aaron just said we're not feeling pressure right now. You know what? But there's a focus. That's what they're selling. They're telling you right now, we're going to learn from this mistake. We're going to get better. Our younger guys are your olderness, like Lazard, like MVS, like some of the guys on the defensive line, you know, and we're going to get a little bit better. They're going to start with a rookie center and a rookie right guard up against Christian Ringo. I talked to you about that the other day
Yeah.
for the Saints defense. But, you know, Corey Linsley's already had problems with a foot in camp. Brian Balaga's had injury problems. We know what happened to TJ Lang when he went to the Lions.
Yeah.
You know, everyone gets out the boo-hoo, you know, the handkerchief when some of these great 29, 30, 31-year-old linemen move on.
Mhm.
But my God, they've made a lot of right moves when it comes to that.
Right.
And they've got plenty of depth like you and Kevin were talking about in the last hour. So at the end of the day, I think they're pretty good at offensive line.
I just, I don't want to go into the details of next year, but you start to look at the contracts. Darius Smith, the second highest player, Aaron Rodgers due to make over $40 million.
Yeah.
And we go back to Devontae. The rumor was that they offered him $27 a year, but it was not all guaranteed. He wants all guaranteed money.
And then this morning, the Tom Silverstein Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel said, here's the deal. Devontae Adams and T.J. Watt with the Steelers,
right,
their agents are both asking for one thing, guaranteed money. We don't want, some big signing bonus. We don't want one of these 5-year contracts where the team pays some money up front and then they cut you after 2 years. We want guaranteed money through the run of the contract. And as of this afternoon, the Steelers changed their mind. And now the word is that he's going to get $114 million over 4 years for T.J. Watt, the former Badger.
Right.
And that's going to make him the highest paid player in the NFL. So whatever pressure that puts on Russ Ball now, your vice president of finance in Green Bay, on whatever the deal is with Devontae. But I feel pretty convinced right now that all those sides are just saying, you know what, we're just going to focus on the games. We'll focus on the season. We'll see where it takes us after that.
I can't imagine.
But, Wayne Larrivee, we were talking about this, at practice in the silence. He brought this up. He goes, Mike, take a serious look at the roster and the free agents that they're going to have next year and where the salary cap is for this team and the money they pushed off to bring back Aaron Jones and the signed Bakhtiari and all those kinds of things. He goes, there's going to be a whole lot of new faces here next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are not going to be back, so they got all those eggs in one basket. Got to say hi to Ron, listening to us in Florida. Said he used to live up here, Go Pack Go.
Yeah.
And people obviously all over the country watching the program, people all over the state and beyond the borders just watching the program as well. Mike, good stuff, man. Who you got in tonight's contest while we start to do our picks here?
I'm going to take the Buccaneers over the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I watched Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Was there ever a Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones pillow fight?
I love Mike McCarthy, but oh my gosh, some of it was embarrassing. Really? Yeah. And Jerry Jones and the Whataburger.
Was that the Mojo moment when he brought out that he was going to give the team the Mojo and kept playing the clips?
Well, he pulled a clip from Austin Powers,
right,
which is what Nathaniel Hackett did last year.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, why is he borrowing? Well, Mike McCarthy's, Nathaniel Hackett's dad, Paul, made Mike McCarthy, hired him, showed him the West Coast offense and all that. But it's just like, it's like the uncle stealing something from his nephew and saying, hey, look, I did my homework too.
Right.
Yeah. It's just kind of, I love him. And I think Mike McCarthy will figure out a way to get Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott going and all those kinds of things. But, Mr. Brady will once again be on a roll. And the one thing about the game, too, for me is it's going to be hot. It is an issue. Even Sean Payton's talking about it. High in 90, thunderstorms and all that. But the good news is this thing is a kickoff at 4:25 down there in Florida. So most of the day will be over. It should be a little bit cooler when they play in those conditions Sunday.
Michael, great stuff, man.
I don't have to go shirtless, in other words.
Well, you know what? I got to be honest. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I really was.
Sure. You and the cheerleaders.
I've seen that you've shaved your chest with my name in it, and I was really looking forward to the advertising. So, all I know is keep the pants on because I don't know what you've shaved in back there.
Thank you guys for listening. We sure appreciate it. Sorry for the silliness.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Clemens joining us up here at the table. We're going to take a quick break. We are broadcasting live. We're at Stenny's, 2nd and National, Walker's Point, downtown Milwaukee. Come on by and say hi, and if not, any other time. They're running shuttles to Summerfest. They run shuttles to the Brewers, to the Packers, to the Badgers, and they run them to the Bucks, the Marquette, UWM, the Admirals. So much going on downtown Milwaukee. They run shuttles, and not to mention great food. And I've always said this is like the Cheers of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
If you don't come here, you haven't been anywhere. And as their motto says, you should be here. So Stenny's, thanks to them for being a part of the program. When we come back, Kevin Holden rejoins us, and we'll start looking around the rest of the NFL and making picks, including tonight's contest between the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. We got more right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Sometimes I get a good feeling.
That's him, right?
Welcome back to the program. We are broadcasting live. We are at Denny's. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle, and we're at Second National Walker's Point. They've got shuttles going over to Summerfest, and shuttles running everywhere, depending on what sporting event is going on. But great place to be. Packed house tonight, as you can see over on the Bud Light live stream. Back in the chair is our buddy Kevin Holden from CBS 58. He stepped away to eat.
Yes.
And suck down the wings, which you still have some sitting here.
Yep.
And in addition to that, you grabbed one of the world-famous Bloody Marys, and now you're back and have the Bud sitting in front of you. It's all about product placement. Thank you very much. So now we start to take a look around the rest of the NFL. We've talked a lot about the Packers, obviously, coming into this one and getting ready for the Saints. But you've got everybody's on tap this weekend. And you got the Cowboys on the road taking on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. They have raised the banners. The trophy was there. Now you've got Gronkowski and company lining up with Tom Brady and going against this last year very porous Dallas Cowboys defense. And Dak Prescott with the Frankenfoot apparently is back and ready to go against the giant big blue blob that used to be the sideline mascot for Xavier University, but now is known as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That is Mike McCarthy. Because, man, if you saw him on Hard Knocks, whew, Jerry's feeding him well. A lot of brisket down there. A lot of brisket in the house.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yes, it is. He's living up to that. Holy mackerel. But who you got tonight? Who you got coming out of this contest?
I mean, I think the season opening game to me is always that continuation of the celebration from the Super Bowl. If there's ever a game where the energy of a previous season carries over, it's this. The fans, the noise that's made, that kind of thing. If they play this game in October or they play it in a different city, I probably feel differently. But I think Tampa wins tonight just because it's the continuation, the show of force. Plus, as you mentioned earlier, all 22 are back, 11 on both sides. I mean, that's unheard of, but especially for a champion.
So then you've got the second game coming up, the Falcons and the Eagles. The Falcons at home, they're trying to get themselves off on the right foot. Matt Ryan and company, obviously, they've got a lot to prove. They have been, for a long time, when it comes to expectation, they have been underachieving, to say the very least. The Eagles, they've had shakeups. They let go of Carson Wentz. They changed some things out. So who do you got in this contest?
Yeah, man, it's interesting to see the Falcons just take that slow slide downward. You know, this was a team that was in the NFC Championship game not that long ago. And Julio Jones was destroying, Packers defensive backs on their way to the Super Bowl. But there's good and there's bad to maintaining the same personnel. And the Falcons maintain the same personnel as that slide went downward. So Jalen Hurts will be an interesting guy to watch for two reasons. Obviously, as a fantasy football player, I've got an eye on that. But in reality, too, I mean, are the Eagles the NFC's Baltimore Ravens? Are they going to, have a quarterback run and have this sort of multifaceted running attack? I feel like it could be pretty effective.
I like the Falcons, their chances in this game. I'm going to pick the Falcons. But overall, they've just fallen off.
Yeah.
They've kind of just fallen into the abyss. Unless they shock the world, I don't see them doing much. You know what I mean? I really don't. I don't see the Falcons doing anything that's going to be relatively impressive. Matt Ryan has not lived up to the contract once he got paid. And ever since that Super Bowl debacle, the crash that they've had, they've not been the same team. And Julio Jones wanted out. He screamed and yelled and hated the place. And, you feel so bad. I mean, being down, were you down with us in Atlanta for the Super Bowl? Were you down there for that?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought that was a CBS game.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So you were down there. So we're sitting there opening night. When they introduce the teams, the Rams come out and such, and we're talking with Sam Shields and all that, and a guy walks over and he wants to introduce himself to all the media. And it's Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons. He is so proud of his stadium and so proud of his city, and they're just talking, and he's such a genuine guy, and all he wants to do is win, and he's done everything his management has told him to do, and they still can't win. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here rooting for the Falcons all of a sudden because of Arthur Blank. But you talk about a guy that you just kind of feel for because they were so close. They had it right there. And then ever since then, it has just turned to crap, for lack of a better term.
It's Daniel. It's the complete opposite of Daniel Snyder, who you can't possibly root for.
Oh, God, no.
And then his team has turned to crap. So it's like, come on, if Arthur Blank is the opposite of Daniel Snyder, can he not get a better result out of his football team?
Right? No doubt about it. Then the Steelers, with all the controversy, TJ Watt's been pretty much a holdout. Now it appears that the Steelers are ready to concede and give him guaranteed money. Mike Clemens broke it a little while ago. I shouldn't say break it, but was reporting that it's $114 million guaranteed over 4 years.
Wow.
Make him the highest paid player in the NFL, TJ Watt.
Goodness gracious.
Hey, I would look for a big house going in on Pewaukee Lake real soon. I'm just saying. But the Steelers, with all of that going on, Big Ben has looked okay, not great in preseason, didn't play. Mike Tomlin, obviously optimistic. They tried to keep the band together for one more run at this. And then they're taking on the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo with MVP hopeful Josh Allen under center, who a lot of people are saying second year of full-time duty, this guy's going to win the MVP. I'm taking the Bills at home to win this one.
I absolutely am. And it's the one of the very few times where seeing a preseason game changed my opinion, raised my opinion of a first-team player. I know that Josh Allen was facing the Packers' second and third teamers, but I watched what he had around him and what he did with them.
Right.
And the rhythm, the timing, the things that he was able to do, the decision-making that he had, and you take that group right down to Emmanuel Sanders and Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley. Like, that's it reminds me of early Rodgers with that really deep receiving core. Defense is the
And
only
Stephon Diggs, who he had last year, and Stephon Diggs just blossomed in that offense.
Oh man, he is going to be one of the best receivers in the league in that offense. Yeah, the Bills are going to win a lot of football games, and they'll win this one pretty handily.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, running through the rest of the NFL right now. No score. Dallas and Tampa Bay just got underway. Dallas quick 3-and-out defensively, which is good news for them. Dak Prescott with a little drop pass over the middle for about 24 yards, and all of a sudden you've got Dallas nearing midfield, and this game is underway. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, come back, continue on with our picks throughout the rest of the National Football League. Broadcasting live, the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by Bud Light down here at Stenny's in Walker's Point, downtown Milwaukee. You should be here. More right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back, and we're glad you're back. Glad you're back hanging with us. We just got a shout out from somebody at the Luke Bryan concert. They'd rather be watching the program on the Bud Light live stream than watching Luke Bryan. So I said, hey, put the phone in Luke's hand. Tell him to give us a shout out.
Oh, that's great.
Dennis watching both us and the Cowboys Buccaneers game. He said, same old Cowboys, drop passes and penalties. Mike McCarthy will take a look at the film and clean that up. I would assume he would. They'll clean that up. They'll clean that up. Dennis chiming in saying, thanks for the great conversation. Awesome show, guys. That's from Derek. And you've got Cinderella Man said, can't remember where you always do the show at Cindy's or not. No, we're going to take it on the road and do it at different places. So make sure you listen again next week. We'll tell you where we're going to be next week. Sunday for the Green and Gold postgame show, we're going to be broadcasting live inside the brewery of MKE Brewing. Yeah.
Okay.
Of the Specialty Brew House downtown Milwaukee.
Oh, fantastic.
Right across from the old Pabst Brewery. Have you ever been up there to the patio bar up on top that overlooks the Fiserv Forum?
No, I've heard about it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Really?
Beautiful place. So we're going to be doing the watch party and the postgame show there. But for those of you listening to the program tonight, also depending on what part of the country or state you're in, if you keep it within about 200 miles, 250 miles maybe, depending on how high we got to go up into the top of the state, we're going to take votes. The top 10 bars that are brought to our attention, just good old-fashioned Wisconsin bars. Just not these giant monoliths, but just the best bar that's voted on. And we're going to take the November 7th Green and Gold postgame show against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. And we're going to go to that bar, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. And we're just maybe an old-fashioned.
Oh,
maybe an old-fashioned, wash it down with a Bud Light, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to do a watch party. We're going to come in and just have a lot of fun.
That is a huge game.
It was something that I was sitting on the air yesterday, and some people said, you got to come to this bar, you got to come to that bar, and we're going to be. You ever been to Oktoberfest in La Crosse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've never been. So this year we're going to go. So I said, there's a whole bucket list of things to do, and people said, well, you got to go to this bar, you got to go to that bar when you come to these cities. And I said, you know what? Let's just do this. Nominate your bar. And nominate your bar. Give us the best bars in the state of Wisconsin, and we'll go ahead and try to make it. So I posted this on Facebook and over on Twitter, and as soon as this reloads, as of right now, I'm going to tell you the exact number. We're at 765 votes.
Okay.
For the best bar. And people that are telling us where to go. So all of them are great ideas. We're going to take the top 10, put them together, put a poll question out. Then we're going to leave it up to the public to vote. We'll make an announcement in about a week and a half and say, November 7th, you better prepare. Here we come.
Oh, man.
We're going to bring the RV. Which, have you seen the RV yet?
No.
Oh, we got a whole new RV this year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, my goodness.
Everything old is new again.
It is.
And I love it.
It is. It is fantastic. I wish I had a standing picture of it. I'll have to find it during the break for you, but regardless, we're going to be on the road again. We're out doing this again, and we're having a blast in doing it again. And it's just kind of like Mike Clemens said to me, we've been reborn. And that's what it feels like. We've just had kind of a rebirth. So it's great to kind of do your own thing. And so there you have it. Well, I'll continue to look. I'll show you the RV. Not that people around us care, because they're all doing their own thing right now, and I don't think anybody gives a damn what the hell we're talking about. But that being said, let's get back into it. The Jets are on the road taking on the Carolina Panthers. I don't even know what to make of this game. The Jets pretty much stink.
Yeah.
The Panthers, there's not much expectation there. I'll take the Panthers just because they're at home at this point.
I mean, that's basically one of the few reasons to take them. Plus, if there is any sort of storyline in this game at all, it's the Sam Darnold revenge game. Boy, that does
Maybe.
That moves like a meter.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe.
It moves a meter in like the Darnold house. That's about
Right.
it. But Darnold will at least give the Panthers a little better option in the passing game, and they do have some weapons in that offense. Obviously, McCaffrey is one of the best in the league, but they've got some receivers to go with him. So, yeah, I'll go Panthers just because we saw the Jets in the preseason, and we actually saw some of their better guys in the preseason.
Right.
They're going to be bad.
We are looking at the next game on the docket. By the way, there's the RV in the background.
Look at that.
That's the Mike Clemens shot. That's the 2 shot. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's Mike Clemens taking pictures of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next game on the docket, interesting. Joe Burrow returns. Joe's coming back to play for the Bengals. Bengals defense still stinks. I don't think they're going to do much this year. The Vikings, on the other hand, have bolstered the defense. Their offense is still pretty good, but they're playing on the road in Cincinnati. I know that city is geeked that Burrow's going to get under center again. I still don't think they have enough in Cincinnati. Their offensive line is still somewhat problematic, even though they addressed it in the draft and in the offseason. I'm going to take the Vikings on the road in this one.
This is one of those things where if you play fantasy football, you might love the Bengals.
Right.
If you're looking for receivers and a quarterback to draft Burrow and T. Higgins, and these guys are your guys, but fantasy to reality is a completely different world, and I think Cincinnati might be good eventually, maybe even later this year, but I don't think they start the year in a good way at all. I think Minnesota takes this one.
San Francisco on the road taking on the Lions, and the Detroit Lions with trading and making for Jared Goff, bringing Jared Goff into the situation. I don't know what specifically to make of it, but Garoppolo is back. Kittle is back. Bosa is back. They're going to make it a long day for Detroit at home when they open up.
Boy, Detroit is a collection. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Detroit is a collection of parts. It's like can you imagine walking into somebody's garage and them saying, "Hey, I've got an alternator from a 1972 Pinto,
right,
and I've got this. We can make a car out of all of this, right?"
I've got an engine that might be good. I'm not quite sure, but we'll figure it out.
And something that's shaped like a wheel. It's made of food,
right,
but it might go.
Sure, yeah.
And the Lions could be 1-16 bad.
You got Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Urban Meyer's making his coaching debut, going into the Texans' home. And that whole weird scenario with the offseason of Deshaun Watson, guys wanting out of there. The Texans are a shambles. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence on the road, even though he might go through some growing pains. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to get the win.
This is going to be one of those where the world will say at the tail end of it, of this first game, "Oh my goodness, Trevor Lawrence won handily in his first NFL game," and then the growing pains happen after. Yeah. I think they win easily just because the Texans, as bad as the Lions are, the Texans aren't even a collection of parts.
No,
you know what I mean? They can't even make a car.
No, they're a junkyard.
Right?
Yeah, they're a junk. And you know what? I give the Texans credit. They played hard when they came into Lambeau Field. A lot of guys trying to make that team and make a name for themselves, but it's like they're a little duct tape here, little Scotch tape here. They're taping a pencil over here. They're taping an eraser over here, and they're just hoping to make some kind of a school out of it, and it's not going to happen. The Colts at home hosting the Seattle Seahawks. The Colts with their new quarterback as well. The Seahawks with the mainstay. As much as I like what the Colts are attempting to do, and I think the Colts are a good team, I like Frank Reich. That's my upset. I'm taking the Colts at home to beat Russell Wilson and company coming in to Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Field. I'm taking the Colts at home. That's my upset of the week.
That's one of those where at some point home field has to mean something for somebody, right? And it should for the Colts. I'm not in that position yet. I think the Seahawks were two different teams last year.
Yeah.
That offense was incredible for the first half of the year and then kind of fell apart in the second half of the year. I think they get closer to the first half. The Seahawks, to begin 2021, I think Russell Wilson comes in. He has his parts and he's ready to go. I'm tentatively picking the Seahawks there, but I can understand the reason for the upset.
Cardinals on the road, and Kyler Murray I love. I think he's a tremendous up-and-coming quarterback. The fact that they went all in and brought in J.J. Watt, and they made a difference Then you've got the Titans at home, Derrick Henry and company, and Tannehill a year better. I don't know what to make of what the Titans are going to be. I do like the Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals on the road to get the win in this one in the opener.
The thing about the Titans is you were talking about 3 game-changing difference makers at 3 different positions: Derrick Henry, AJ, and now Julio Jones.
Right.
Like, wow. As a defense, how do you properly scheme to stop all 3 of those?
I don't think Julio has the same hops that he had years ago.
That's true. It's not 2017 Julio. It's
Right.
not Julio that burned every Packers.
It's Julio that was banged up all season long last year and didn't want to play.
Yeah, that's significant. I'll go Titans at home, but the Cardinals are exciting to watch. This is going to be an exciting game, a shootout of a game.
You got Justin Herbert and company on the road against the Washington football team and the Chargers. I thought Herbert, he could possibly maybe work himself into an MVP chase if they perform well. They're finally, they found a home at SoFi Stadium. They're no longer playing in the inflatable that was a soccer field from a couple of years ago. Washington, as much as I like Ron Rivera, maybe the second year with his thumbprint on this team means something, but I'm going to take the Chargers on the road just because it's very difficult, though, for a West Coast team to come East Coast and get the win, specifically on the opening weekend. But I'm going to pick the Chargers to do it.
Yeah, it's tough to do, but a little easier when you're facing whatever they have together there in Washington. And Ryan Fitzpatrick will help a little. He'll help stabilize it a little. But that team needs a whole lot of Ryan. They need Ryan Fitzpatrick at 12 different positions for them to get in the right place. And I'm with you about the Chargers. We called their old stadium the Fire Festival of Stadiums. It's like you were searching for food and all you got was the stuff in the plastic container.
Yeah.
It was so bad. The Chargers are ready for this new era. I think they win pretty handily.
Well, let's do this. We'll step away. We'll come back. A couple of big games yet to go, including the Packers on the road against the Saints, the Browns and Chiefs, Bears on the road taking on the Rams, and then the Monday night contest, Ravens and Raiders. Got a lot to get to in a very short period of time. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels rules in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, pull it in the pocket.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you. And for those of you watching on the Bud Light live stream, you're watching Kevin Holden finish eating.
He's late getting his headset on. What else is new?
The camera comes over. He's wiping his mouth. He's wiping his fingers, trying to get his headset on, and completely just grubbing down. The man goes to the electric chair a little bit later on tonight.
It's true.
So it'll be an interesting stink coming out of that room, whatever that happens to be. It'll smell like baseball and wings.
My wife is coming here. She might stay here.
Yeah?
Like, if she may not go home if I go home. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you. We've got a couple of scores right now in the Tampa Bay and Dallas game, and it looks like it's going to be a tie ball game as Dallas just went into the end zone.
That's CeeDee Lamb, right?
Yep. Lamb just caught a touchdown pass from Dak Prescott. We'll see if it stands, but nevertheless, if that does, it then should be 7-7 early on in that contest. We get back to making some picks, and we've got a short period of time, so we want to roll through these. But the Browns on the road, Baker Mayfield and everything that he brings to the table in the season they had last year, and a team that is right there with the Ravens picked to win the AFC North, taking on Patrick Mahomes and company down in Kansas City. And Kansas City, after being in the last two Super Bowls, stinging and reeling as to whether or not this team is going to be able to get back yet again. But give me your thoughts on this one. You've got the Browns and the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs at home. I think as good as the Browns have gotten, I still like Patrick Mahomes. But the last time we saw Patrick Mahomes, he was running for his life.
And that's significant, and they had to retool significantly along that line to try to help the cause, which is to say they have all the firepower in the world, but you've got to be able to protect your guy a little bit. Again, It's something the Packers went through earlier in Aaron Rodgers' career where, all of that potential was there, but, too many sacks, too many whatever is going to be a problem. Doesn't matter in this one. I really think the Browns are a talented team, just not talented enough to win at Kansas City in week one. The schedule makers were not kind to them.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Then the next game up on the docket, you got the Dolphins on the road. Mac Jones beats out Cam Newton to the point that Cam Newton then is let go. He's gone. You've got Tua. And Tua is still guiding the Miami Dolphins, but has not looked anywhere near like Tua would be, so to speak. And I thought Tua was completely overrated coming out of Alabama anyway, but it is he and Mac Jones going head-to-head with these two younger teams. I'm going to take the Patriots at home at Gillette.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Tua slots in and how long it takes him to slot in, because Tua, I worry about Tua that 2 years from now when we sit here and we do that huddle 2 years from now, we're going to say, this is the year that Tua might finally live up to that potential. Right? Like there's that. I wonder if that upward curve is always ahead. And I mean, I know it's not the Brady Patriots, but there's still plenty of talent on that roster, defensively especially. That's going to cause fits. I agree with you. I think the Patriots win that one.
Broncos on the road taking on the Giants in the Meadowlands. Neither team great. I think the Broncos bring a better defense. They've got Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know what to expect out of him. We've seen two different Teddys. Teddy from last year was not very good. 2 years ago in the 5 games he filled in for Drew Brees, he was spectacular. Maybe it's the play caller. But I'm going to take the Giants at home to win this one.
Man, that is
even though Denver's got a better defense.
Yeah, so that was my first thought is I like the better defense there. But then if I take the Broncos, it means that in week one I pick Teddy Bridgewater on a new team to win a game.
Right.
So I'm going to do this with the thought that your producers will rack this and make it and laugh at me for a whole year. Remember when Kevin predicted Bridgewater to win at New York in week one? Crazy.
Nah, I don't think that's going to happen. But Justin Fields is on the road out in L.A., and the Rams now have Matthew Stafford, and Justin Fields probably isn't going to see the field because he'll be Andy Dalton's team. So Matt Nagy, again, being the smartest guy in the room, he's going to falter big time. I'm going to take the Rams at home to get the win over the Bears.
It's a Mike Allstott jersey.
I know. I saw that.
That's amazing.
That is Mike Allstott. He's got Mike Allstott's size. He could be a fullback.
Put him in the fullback position right now. I absolutely love the idea of Matthew Stafford in a Rams offense, even at this age. 6 years ago, Matthew Stafford.
Well, Matthew Stafford has always been good.
Right.
He's just had craptastic teams around him.
That's what I mean. Like, he's going to get to wash the Lions off of him, like with a hose, with a spray hose.
Yeah. But the problem is that stink. It's hard to get rid of.
It takes some time.
That is bad stink right there.
It takes some time. The Rams will win this one. I think the Rams are going to be a fascinating story.
I know we got 2 minutes, but that stink of Detroit, that's like when you were a kid and you got sick on Jaeger and you threw up on yourself and you went, I'll just wash my clothes. But you know that smell was with you for 3 straight weeks. You never get rid of it.
You've covered championship celebrations. There is nothing that stays on you like champagne from a locker
God,
room.
no.
You can't get it out.
No, you can't.
Like,
no, you can't. You can dry clean it. You can still smell it.
Yeah. It's like I took a shower, stepped out of nope, going right back.
Go right back, no doubt. 2 minutes here. We got the Ravens on the road on Monday night. Lamar Jackson did not have the season he wanted going into that stadium in Las Vegas to take on John Gruden and the Raiders. I like what the Ravens have done in the offseason. I like the fact that Lamar Jackson seems to be humbled. I still don't like him as a quarterback, but I think they're better as a team, top to bottom, than the Raiders are. I'm going to take the Ravens on the road on Monday night.
Yeah, the lesser flawed team, basically, is what it is. It's a Ravens team that, as you mentioned, I don't think they would be my pick to even win their division, but they're going to be good. And the Raiders are way more flawed because Josh Jacobs is back there, and already they're going out and throwing a lot of money at the Kenyon Drakes of the world. That makes me really nervous if I'm Josh Jacobs. I haven't even played it down this year, and this is already happening. Baltimore wins that game.
Then the Packers at 3:25 kickoff time down at TIAA Bank Stadium, and they're taking on the New Orleans Saints. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. After Hurricane Ida came through, it's kind of a road game, a neutral game for both. The last time the Packers played there, Packers fans packed that place. I wonder what it's going to be like this coming weekend. They're expecting close to 90 degrees, 75% humidity, and it's going to rise throughout the day, getting up to 82% at night. Even though it is that, and the Saints are used to it, I'm taking the Packers on the road in the opener in this one.
Yeah, there's so much to like about what this Packers team has done because we spent 6 months worrying, 6 months thinking about the different elements. Could they get Aaron Jones back? Could they get the defense, all those people back? Would Aaron Rodgers actually return? And at the end of the day, they're all back. Everybody's there.
Right.
This is the team that they wanted. And I think they can start with a pretty convincing win in Jacksonville. By the way, Scott Grotsky
yes,
with us.
He was on with us today.
His first game with our CBS 58, 2016 in Jacksonville. So excited he forgot to put anything on.
Oh, God.
We had him live at 10 that night. The color of that All-Star jersey.
Yeah, he is opaque. He doesn't even have pigment in his skin. So, he almost seared like an ahi tuna. Yeah, I can see that. So good stuff tonight, man. Did you enjoy yourself?
This was awesome.
This is back. We're back at it. This is the best.
What I love is that quality will win. Quality will be there. And quality was here tonight.
Quality was here tonight. What a way to start out. Thanks to everybody and all of our friends down here at Stenny's, which is a fantastic place. And just one more time to show you what's going on out here at Stenny's. It's a terrific place. Come on by. They run shuttles to damn near everything. The people down here are great. The staff is great. Brought to you by our good friends at Bud Light. And we'll be on the road again next week, or 2 weeks from now, as a matter of fact. I don't know where, but we will. And we'll let you know where it's going to be. Until then, for Kevin Holden, I'm Bill Michaels. Time for us to get out of here. Have a good one. Thanks to Evo for producing one hell of a show tonight. Demand's all over it. We'll be